Welcome, folks, to another episode. Today, we're talking about John Carpenter's Village of the Damned. This is Vic Azim here with my compadre, Nick Arcana. Nick, how's your week been so far? I understand that you have been hanging out, just playing video games, watching movies. How you been?
So yeah, I have been because apparently you cannot pour concrete when it is so cold that certain materials inside the concrete, certain chemicals, will not actually mix in well. So you can't pour on the concrete. So I've been off all week because it has been like under 10 degrees here.
So cold in our area. The cold streets of Virginia, which let me just say, I can't wait till springtime because I'm not made for
Man, this
the
ain't
weather. So
cold. You want cold? Go to Alaska.
no, I'm okay with that. I don't need Alaska. This is cold. This is very cold. Well, folks, because at the end of March, I will be meeting the great John Carpenter. I'm gonna be putting personally a focus on the amazing John Carpenter catalog, going through certain movies. And this week we've decided on Village of the Damned. Why? Because some of you may know, we recently partook in some of the Children of the Corn sequels, which maybe the less said the better. But growing up with nostalgically remembering Village of the Damned, I remember it being almost similar to the Children of the Corn movies. So I felt like it was a good time to revisit that, maybe compare the Children of the Corn movies we've seen recently. Just gonna give a quick spoiler for me. Although I do have some problems with this movie, I do think it's better than all the Children of the Corn movies. Just better made. Uh, can you think of any Children of the Corn movies that you actually like better than Village of the Damned? I don't know.
Um, Better than Village of the Damned. So critically speaking, no. Personally, I actually do find parts 2 and 3 just a little better, but that's because they're a little bit more, I wouldn't say fast paced, but they're a little bit more engaging.
Okay.
Plus, even though, plus I understand the acting of these kids has to be dry because they're not human,
Hmm.
but at the very least, the acting of those kids is more upbeat, I guess is the best way to say it. More, I want to do this.
It's kind of like you're hinting at the idea of basically parts 2 and 3 of the Corn might be, yeah, more fast-paced and entertaining because there's more of a gore factor and, like, feels like more prototypical slasher, where this is one is more
It's more
just kind of a
thriller,
s yeah,
slow
yeah.
burn thriller, sci-fi horror. And let's face it, I'm not a big Alien fan in the first place, so
Yeah, and to be honest, the critics did hate this movie. This movie is hated by critics, even amongst horror fans. When I looked it up online, it's pretty mixed. I mean, I feel like among John Carpenter's movies, this one's never really talked about as one of his better movies. It's definitely considered in the bottom tier, maybe a step above Ghost of Mars, but kind of in that tier of like his bottom couple movies you just listed as.
John Carpenter
So
did Ghost of Mars?
yeah, man,
Huh.
absolutely. Yeah, you need
It,
to
it
go
didn't
look at
have the same feel as all of his other movies because I've seen that one.
well, that
Granted,
most
it's
people
more
like
action.
Ghost of Mars kinda ended his run basically, and not on a good note for the most part because most people hate Ghost of Mars. That's one I have to revisit actually. In the next few months, I'll be revisiting that also. Um, but yeah, I think this movie came out right after In the Mouth of Madness, and really In the Mouth of Madness is considered his last, like, really good film. After this movie, we then do get Escape from LA, which has a mixed sort of reaction, and then we get Vampires, which, as you know, when we revisited, we weren't the biggest fans of, although you had a great remembering of that from your childhood, I guess, or maybe just something about a bitten thigh, but, I
Yeah.
was not impressed by Vampires, and then we had Ghost of Mars. So that's how kind of how his run ended was this, Escape from LA, Vampires, and Ghost of Mars. So most people feel like his peak ended with In the Mouth of Madness, and this started a slow descent into Mars Madness eventually. But I don't know if you remember this, but back when my parents owned a laundromat, I had this movie on VHS actually. And at the
No,
laundromat, many times this movie would play at the laundromat. I remember always having this movie playing at the laundromat because the gore level, I remember being like low enough to where it was like presentable. You could play it. There's not a lot of cussing in the movie, nothing sexual. So it was actually an appropriate movie to play in a public place. And
you
I think
say that,
that's
but
yeah.
I still have the memory of us playing Nightmare on Elm Street there. And I'm not talking about the first movie either. I'm talking about the ones where Robert Englund goes hard with bitch.
Yeah, yeah, those laundromat days, there was definitely some risque screenings, but at the same time also, probably if I was playing a nightmare movie, it's probably one of those days where there weren't kids there per se. I don't know if I ever had kids watching Nightmare on Elm Street. Probably adults, and with that, it's like, okay, if you're 40 and you're offended by Freddy saying bitch, then I mean, come on. What can I tell you? So, anyways, what do you
Someone's having a party.
I was saying? Sound like the Village of the Damned kid just walked into your room. But okay,
Right?
anyway, so just to give some background on Village of the Damned. So John Carpenter had just made In the Mouth of Madness with Universal, or I guess was in the process. It's these movies they came out so close together that you're like, wow, like I guess he was working on the movies at the same time, or maybe In the Mouth of Madness got delayed. So maybe he made that the release got delayed to where it kind of went very close to the release date of this. But anyways, he's working with Universal Studios at the time. They had the script for Village of the Damned, so they thought Carpenter, being his background with aliens and horror and stuff like that, would be a natural fit to direct Village of the Damned. Also, it was going to be, of course, a remake, and Carpenter famous for his remake of The Thing, which everybody loves. So they gave the script to Carpenter, and Carpenter was open to doing it, but he didn't like the script as presented, so he basically rewrote the script. And one of the things he did was the script he got initially had leaned away from the whole alien aspect of it. And Carpenter, I guess, wanted to have a concrete explanation for the kids, so he threw the alien element back in, which I
You know,
would have preferred the movie just to not have aliens involved at all.
you
So,
know, I think it's weird. Every single time Carpenter gets a hold of a remake, and he gets the original script, and most likely they've watched the original movie, and the original movie plus the original script does not have concrete evidence. Why does he automatically go to aliens?
I think he's definitely a fan of aliens because aliens show up in The Thing, which we know, of course, that's a thing from other planets. That was always gonna be an alien.
Well, yeah.
But then, of course, They Live is heavy, of course, on aliens. Um, and then we have this movie. But on the flip side, though, he has movies that are really about the devil. I mean, Prince of Darkness, I guess, is a movie about some kinda satanic thing. In the Mouth of Madness, definitely. So, it's interesting. He can definitely go sort of into sci-fi and horror interchangeably. And of course, he made the original Halloween, so but yeah, definitely, with this, I guess I would have liked just no explanation. Just whatever force it is just came into town, impregnated these women, but I don't need an explanation beyond that, to be
Well,
honest.
well, let's
Just leave
face
me
it. I
curious.
guarantee you, anyone who watched it without the explanation most likely would have just thought aliens.
Well, it is the thing that makes the most sense, I guess. I mean, you could have a demonic force, but aliens doing some kind of experimentation here or trying to slowly take over the planet, you could see different strategies aliens might take in this scenario, so I sorta get
So
it.
I would say, what if this movie was a sequel or the prequel to They Live? But if I remember correctly, They Live aliens did not have the same powers, or at least they never showed it. I've only watched They Live
Oh.
once with you, so I wouldn't. I don't remember.
Well, They Live's aliens were not really about killing other humans or like that, it wasn't, like, really violent. Their thing was more just taking over and consuming all the resources and turning humans into sort of materialistic, consumer-driven zombies. So, They Live was more almost like a political movie, I would say,
I mean,
whereas
we're
this
already
feels more
there, so they
this
won.
feels this feels more straightforward, just like typical probable alien invasion where they're gonna kill the humans and enslave them in a more violent way, let's say. Um, but They Live also was an original Carpenter script where this is a remake, so this already has, like, source material that he has to pretty much stay fairly loyal to, I guess. Um, but anyway, so Carpenter was like, "Okay, cool, he got the script, rewrote it." He's gonna bring in, of course, a lot of Carpenter actors that he always works with. He's famous for always liking to work with the same actors. Filming location wise, believe it or not, a lot of this movie takes place in the same town where he filmed The Fog. So if you watch this with the fog, you'll see they have the same streets, the same everything. So it's a small town in California, um, which these opening scenes are very beautiful. Actually, the overdrops and stuff. It does look like a beautiful area. Um, what time period does this movie take place in? I don't know. I don't know if this is supposed to be the 60s, the 70s, 80s, modern times. I don't
So
know.
I feel like most likely, since we don't get a year, okay, the kids are what, 12 when the main events of the story take place?
I think younger than that. I want to say
9,
actually, I think like 7 or 8. Yeah. I think it's supposed to
7
be like
or
a
8.
7 or 8 year thing. Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and say 8 because they look a little older than 8. Trust me, they
Mhm.
look honestly. I put them at 12 because they look a little. They look about 12, but they definitely look young, too young to be anywhere over 12.
I read somewhere that it's supposed to be a 7, 8 years old, but
7 to 8. Okay, so let's
yeah,
just say
because
8,
because some of them look way too young to be 12. That's for sure. So
especially David. Um,
yeah.
but yeah, let's go ahead and just say 8 then. And that means if we're to believe this takes place in 1995 because we're not given any kind of title card of what year we're in, that would mean that the kids would have had to have been born in 1980. Was it 7?
It'd be pretty
So
bad if we couldn't figure out the math on that. That'd be pretty bad. He's like, let's see, -8. What is that? 1967?
right, 1967. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, that'd be 28.
yeah. So, I mean, the problem with the time jump is just that, yeah, if we're saying this is like 1987 to 1995, it's like they don't put any effort. I mean, it's just lazy. They don't put any effort into like, yeah, if it's like a different decade, the fashion would be different, the hairstyles would be different. We don't get any time card that shows on screen like 7 years later or nothing like that. So the way they handle time is like pretty lazy in this movie. Like I said, they could have updated the the environment a little bit to show a time jump, but it was just kind of like, no, this is like 8 years later, but nothing's changed in the world. It's just the exact same whatever. So
well,
I don't know.
well, considering the fact that when the time jump happens, the town actually looks like it is mostly abandoned. Besides the families that actually had the kids, it makes me wonder if the reason everything still looks the same is because everyone in town said, "Screw this, I'm out." Because we do hear a little bit what happened between those 8 years that there has been some suicides or accidents that all happened because of those kids.
Yeah. And let's actually we'll come back to this in a minute. Let's go back to the beginning because I do want to talk about the entire to me, to be honest, the best part of the movie is this opening 15 minutes. There's so much interest, intrigue built up in this first 15 minutes. I don't think it ever actually really delivers on how good the opening 15 minutes is. But okay, let's go back a bit. We have basically small town, normal town,
Having some
wherever
kind of town party.
town party. We get to see Christopher Reeve's character. He's waking up next to his wife. We meet what's
Jill and her boyfriend. I forgot her boy. I think Jack was her boyfriend's name or
yeah.
husband's name.
Basically, small town, seems like everybody knows each other, everybody gets along. Just a normal day in a small town. But I think it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, I wanna say.
Yeah,
The whole town mysteriously just all passes out, just goes unconscious.
I got something to say before we continue. So, watching this is my first time. My first time watching it, I literally looked over at my wife and said, because this is the part before Jack actually enters that realm.
Mhm.
So I was thinking,
Remember not to do the hand movements because it
yeah.
messes up your screen. He's like, "Oh,
But
no."
no, so I was thinking, okay, Jack's our main character. He's going to come back. Everyone's going to be knocked out. I was thinking he was not going to be affected by it because he was out of there before. And then he just straight up passes out and went, oh, he did.
It's it it's interesting because Carpenter said I mean, having gotten the Blu-ray, I watched all the behind the scenes stuff, so Carpenter said with that character, when he talked to the actor about it, he was like, a classic horror thing, he's doing the thing here where he wants you make you think this guy is gonna be, like, the main character, because kind of in their opening scenes, it looks like he's gonna be one of the leads with the amount of screen time he gets. I thought the same thing too. I didn't remember enough of it. I was like, okay, he thankfully left town. Now he's coming back. So he's going to stumble upon everybody being unconscious and be like, what the hell? But yeah, I mean, unfortunately for him, like the worst case scenario, he's driving, so he passes out. And then of all things, of all the, it's just bad luck. Of all the places he could have passed out, he passed out an exact thing where he crashes into another thing and explodes. Like he could
Yeah.
easily just slid onto the side of the road and been okay. But it's like the worst case scenario. And then also it's like nobody else in the small town was driving when it happened. They were all, I
No, they
guess,
were,
just
because when you see the little montage before cutting back to Jack, you see like one guy was on a motorcycle, crash,
okay.
slammed his head into the ground. He dead most likely. You got others. One was in a tractor, one was in a car, T-boned.
So basically, we have the whole town go unconscious, which is a very, very interesting setup. As a viewer, if you knew nothing about this movie, you're just like, "Whoa, this is like different than any beginning of a movie I've ever seen." Now, one thing that's kind of odd though, you cut to basically the whole chemical research team has showed up to the scene of the crime or whatever, and they're there, and now Christopher Reeves, the doctor, is now coming back. This whole thing has been like set up. You have the people with the gas mask on. They've made like a line in the road. My question is, okay, they have all this information, right? But all they can see is like what's right in front of them, right? They haven't gone into town.
Well, they can't go in the town.
So they're kind of like, I'm almost as positive that they're like saying like the whole town is like falling asleep. We don't know what's going on. All they're seeing is like two police officers collapse on the ground who they could probably assume maybe are dead. So I'm puzzled why how they came to like this conclusion that the whole town is asleep and that all this stuff is going on. If they're just seeing ahead of them two cops laying on the ground and then like a car accident ahead.
Plus the giant
I
tanker
mean,
in front of them.
yeah, but aren't don't you think like they're for story purposes, they like have this whole thing like, "Oh my god, the town's asleep. We don't know. My officers are laid out." But wouldn't the more accurate assumptions be like how do they come to the conclusion that you can't walk into the thing? Because whoever walks in would have passed out and not been able to tell them, "Hey, don't walk in this area." This seems like a really there's no way they would have came to any kind of conclusion that they do here.
Unless
I don't know.
so what I'm thinking it is, because further down the line we do know that the doctor woman, Dr. Werner, does know what's going on to an extent, I guess to say. So I'm assuming this is also probably the first time she's actually witnessed this whole happening, but she knows of it from other people from the other like two or three communities affected by something like this. So what it is most likely the two cops got there because some explosions. I'm sure somebody outside the area heard the explosion, called the cops. The two cops got there, passed out. Most likely, the two cops called it in before they walked out that far. And then when the cops passed out, a bunch of other cops showed up and saw
Why
two
not?
cops laid out. Thought, I'm not going in there.
No, no, but I think you're wrong here. I think that if you show up to a scene of the crime, you can see in the distance nobody's here. You just see two cops laid out. They're gonna go check on the cops. You remember, this should have played out like Return of the Living Dead, where they keep sending more cops, and the cops come, and then more zombies just eat the cops.
Well,
Think about think
that's
about
what.
naturally think about naturally the first cop car that shows up. You see a car accident, you see two cops on the ground. My point is, at what point does someone say, "Hey, don't go near those cops because you'll
What
pass
if
out."
I got a
You
what if for you?
There's no
What
logical way to make that conclusion.
Actually, there is sort of. What if two cops cars, four cops total showed up? The two walked ahead while the other two are calling it in, and then they see those two pass out.
Now that would be okay. Somebody has to see somebody. So that's why I was like, okay, when they first send somebody over and they see the chemical people, they see the person pass out. I feel like now at that point you can start making all the conclusions, but you'd have to see somebody in front of you do the pass out thing. So that's what I'm saying. My point is that like you can't even send a helicopter, and the helicopter would have crashed, right? So
Yeah.
they're assuming the entire town is like this, but all they can see is like right in front of them. So that's where
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of like a lot of conclusions were made because Kirstie Alley at that he wouldn't she I don't think she could have predicted that this town was about to be selected by the alien. So she didn't know just coming into it. On the back end now she knows, but I don't know. It just if you think about it, it doesn't make the only way it makes sense is what you're saying is that a cop car behind them saw them pass out and then said, "Okay, there's some kind of chemical spill." Maybe that happened, but I just think that if it was like only one, it feels like there have been more people having walked into that accidentally and passing out. To know the exact line where you can go is like very interesting to me. They
Okay,
also
look here.
they know the exact cutoff point where they can not walk past. That's also pretty
Well,
okay.
actually, they don't technically know that because remember they didn't tested it out with someone wearing a gas mask to walk further
Mhm.
out. I guess really to see if it is a chemical. Because once that guy passed out with that gas mask, it proves it's a frequency that's knocking everyone out, not a chemical.
They had a good guess because, yeah, the guy walks about 5 steps in, and then he pretty much passes out, so
Yeah, but still, uh, also you're looking a little too far into things. This is a $22 million budget. They didn't have the budget for all of these cops when they already had Christy Alley and Christopher Reeves. I mean, seriously, you have Superman there. He had to have gotten 12 million.
the end sequence is gonna be, like, 50 cops having a shootout. What are you talking about? Are you forgetting the entire state police department showing up at the end of the movie?
Which we're going to talk about that
Just
because that kind of goes against what we literally hear 10 minutes before that scene happens.
alright, so, yeah, so, basically now, of course, we see the animals thankfully wake up, so no animals were harmed in the making this film. The animals wake up, all the humans start to get up. It seems like
Well,
everybody was just temporarily asleep.
there is one person who didn't get up. Well, I guess technically like five, but there is one person at the party who didn't get up.
Well, listen,
When
sometimes
when
to
you're at a
make sure
barbecue, you need some barbecue.
to make sure a steak gets properly made, you have to make some sacrifices sometimes, so
Okay, look, if you're looking for a barbecue, there's nothing better than a good long pig. Okay,
of all the places to fall asleep, falling asleep over the top of a grill, oh my god. Jeez.
I don't know. He must have had his legs positioned just right to keep himself up and maybe just also not have the grill completely just drop. I know it looked like a pretty sturdy grill, but at the same time, I bet if one of us, unless our legs are positioned just right, it falls on that grill, it's going to fall with you. You are still going to end up on the ground with burns, yes, but at the very least alive. This guy, I mean, he must have been like a tripod.
I thought this was, like, done for comedic purposes, I laughed. I thought that was supposed to be like a laugh out loud. I was like, "Oh, okay, so we're getting some sense of humor." That felt like more like to make you laugh versus, like, to shock you kind of the moments.
Well, the funny thing is when you first the camera first passes over all the people who are unconscious. Me and Casey also both saw. Oh, look, there's a guy sleeping on the grill.
Well, you know, all medical experts really emphasize the importance of sleep. Sleep is where you actually that's where you store your memories is while you're sleeping, regenerates your body. If you're sick, a nice nap may make you feel healthy again. But for this town, it made them all pregnant. And that can
Yeah,
I guess can happen
not all of
sometimes
them.
too. So
Not all of them. 10 women.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well,
10 women, and they all decided to keep their babies. And I got a question for you about this one. So 10
mhm.
women decided to keep their babies. And this is after the announcement from Dr. Werner saying, we will take care of you if you decide to keep these babies, including a $3,000 per month budget. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the movie, when Werner tells another doctor, hey, they all decided to keep their babies, and the doctor asks why, and even Werner's like, I'd like to know that too. Is it not possible that $3,000 a month is not to play here?
Well, it's hard to buy because I know obviously we can just go with a small default thing of money is like so motivating that they were all just like $3,000 a month. Let's have this baby.
Well, especially with
But
that one father who even asked, like, "Well, both my wife and my daughter are pregnant. Am I only getting 3,000?" She goes, "No, you're getting six." And you can even
oh yeah,
see the smile on his
he
face. He's like, "Oh yeah,
he immediately was like, "Oh yeah, I'll do anything for 6,000 a month."
right."
Now, my thing is like, okay, this is a religious community apparently, and I mean, we have one girl who's never had sex, so these are clearly like mysterious pregnancies to the community. They know that this is like a weird thing. I just don't think all of them are taking the risk because they got to be thinking something's up here. I mean, I I think at least I would guess at least 3 of the 10, no matter what was offered, would be like, I am not having part in this. This is like sounds extremely over the top, weird, demonic,
Well,
risky to my health. I just think a few of them would be like, hey, appreciate it, but I'm gonna go ahead and not do this.
so I got the feeling from at least one character. Because let's face it, we don't even know the other. Like, we know of like four
Yeah.
characters, or no, five characters. We don't know the other five.
Mhm.
And to be fair, we still don't even know two of them. We only know three. But you got the one woman whose husband was in Japan. I'm guessing on some kind of business trip when it all happened. So when he comes back, he hears she's pregnant and he's thinking, "Oh well, you cheated on me."
Hmm.
So out of this, I would assume that that woman. Now, here's another problem about this whole thing because abortion is also against their religion.
Being impregnated in a mysterious fashion, in this mysterious fashion, I know that, of course, in the religion, we can say, Jesus was born from a virgin, all this stuff, but the whole town and the government's involved, they gotta be thinking this is something shaky, so that's all I'm saying.
Actually, you know what? You brought up a good point. You ready to hear this? So,
Maybe.
what if, at least in this movie's context, because what if Jesus was actually from this same alien species, but because either something happened to his mate, or maybe they didn't bring him a mate down, so he was able to grow an attachment to humans themselves, get their emotions, and then he used his powers to help people, and then claim demons and further in service of religion. What if that alien was? What if Jesus was an alien to do all that? In the context of this movie,
I
not of actual reality, of course.
This sounds like a movie that probably is on Tubi. If we dig deep enough, this movie's already been made. It's called it's called Passion of the Village of the Cry I don't know what it's called, but it's probably on
Village of
Tubi.
the Christ, not Village of the Damned.
It's it's next it's being recommended next to Ghostface Assassin and Tremors Are Predators. It's in the same mold, so you can find this movie on Tubi probably.
I couldn't help it,
Um,
uh, but
all
the
right, but
other.
my point is just that, and they could have put this in the story. I would have had one person be rogue and be like, "Hey, I'm not doing this," and then maybe something happens to them. Because I think the point you're getting at with the money thing is that if they all agreed, was there something more going on in terms of they're already impregnated with the evil whatever, so it's like, is the evil having an influence here on them already?
Yep. So obviously, I was just about. I guess not obviously, but I was about to bring up that maybe the fetuses, since we see at 1 year old, they have the power to control people, or at least
Mm,
mess with your minds to be able to make you do what they want. It would not be out of realm of possibilities to believe they already had those powers as fetuses.
mm.
So he most likely understanding they're probably only affecting the mother, seeing that the mother's thinking doing this, the fetus changes that to no, you want to have me.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking it's a combination. In some cases, maybe the money had a little bit of influence, but it's gotta be more something sinister going on, the influence of the fetus being like, "Hey, you're gonna have me." So, the evil fetus. Okay.
At the party, before we figure out, before it's known that the pregnancies all happened during the blackout, at least to the movie characters, they're having a party though because Ben is back from Japan after about a year, and a woman comes up to him because obviously he's distant from his wife because he believes his wife cheated on him. And the woman goes up to him and goes, "What did your year in Japan teach you not how to not be a dad?" I'm just like, what a weird thing to ask someone who, if you were in his shoes, you'd believe the same thing. Heck, I don't think
Yeah.
he ever fully understood what was going on.
Well, it's a very hard thing to explain, so I can understand everybody being skeptical. Um, so yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it, but we'll go through before the big time jump. We have so the whole pregnancy thing. This story, I mean, it's so funny because we were talking about this how rushed it feels. The whole movie could have been just the pregnancy with like the very end being like the births. You could have just like taken their journey of like them having nightmares while they're pregnant and like just knowing that when this happened, like Rosemary's Baby is kind of very similar to that in a way.
I was about to say we
So
already got a movie like that.
yeah, but it just feels kind of rushed. Like you're going through all the stages pretty quickly. When we get to the actual births, we obviously see that Kirstie Alley's character is very interested in this. So
Well,
they're it's all like a government births basically. So
I do got a question here at this pregnancy scene. So you know for a fact 10 women are giving birth at the same time.
yep.
Yet you only bring in 9 doctors?
Yeah, do you think that's why one of the babies didn't make it was because of the
Well, from the sounds of it, if what I'm hearing is true, it's possible that baby wasn't going to make it anyway because it sounded like because Christy Allen said that the baby's throat got blocked or was being squeezed on by the umbilical cord, so the baby couldn't breathe. So I'm assuming that baby was dead, no matter if there was another doctor there or not. But just saying, if they're all giving birth at the same time, why did she not have a doctor with her? Now I feel like
yeah.
something could have been fixed if there was. I don't know if something like an umbilical cord could be fixed, but
Now we find out later that of course Kirstie Alley is going to secretly take the let's call it the dead alien baby and basically from that know that hey, this is obviously an alien just by the looks of it. I just feel like I mean for her to like kind of keep that not tell the community basically that hey, we know that you're giving birth to pretty much aliens. I mean, that's like I feel like the government would have taken over that town, been like, "Hey, we're quarantining, shutting this whole thing down. So much risk here." But years is just gonna go by with them. They're letting Kirstie Alley do like a quiet sort of observation, report back to us what's going on, give us updates. I'm like, dude, there's an alien race in this town. Like, you're telling me the government's not like this is not like number one priority in the whole country? Like they're still left to themselves. It's really doesn't make sense to me.
well, it's
All
not
the
only
all the debt all the debts that are gonna happen are gonna be basically on her back because she knows from the beginning, like, "Hey, these are not real children, these are aliens." So,
well,
I don't
I
know.
guess to be fair, they are children. They're just alien children, but at the same time, the problem is there's like 3 other area. This is like 3 other areas this is happening to. Wouldn't the smart from the sounds of it, they kept the babies there too. So wouldn't the smart thing just be key? And this is still going to cause deaths, of course, but wouldn't the smart thing to be take the babies from 2 of those communities and put them in a safe bubble like community with just the parents, and then have one set of babies stay with the original community to see how they interact with humans.
Yeah. The problem is because she made this deal with the parents, I guess they feel like we can't there was no, like, addendum added on to, "Hey, you're gonna have the babies, $3,000 a month." She does say, "We're gonna observe the children." But there's no thing of saying like, "Hey, you won't get to have normal lives. You won't have to leave your community. You won't have to like anything weird happen to you." So maybe they feel like, okay, we can't just like make the parents suddenly have different lives or something. But it's just like, I don't know. I'm like, there's no way this is kept so low key as it is for all the years. And now also we'll talk about the first hint of trouble would be, I guess, this whole hand in the boiling water scene.
So yeah, apparently Mara does not like being hurt. She gets soup that's too hot, and and Barbara, who the mom is, actually does seem troubled by, oh my gosh, I accidentally hurt my baby, and Mara's like, no, now I'm gonna hurt you. And I got a question: since when does this baby look 1 year old to you? Because she looks 3 to me. Is she so
Yeah,
advanced in strength and mental strength that she can look 3 years old?
because she's like the chosen leader of this pact. I feel like she is like more advanced than the other ones. But okay, I understand the hey, I'm going to punish you by putting your hand in the boiling water, show you who's boss, who's really boss here. What was the reason for Mara to make her kill herself though? Like, aren't you putting yourself at risk by eliminating your basically your main caretaker is the mom? It's a stay-at-home mom. I believe the dad at this point was, obviously just a doctor who would travel and stuff.
Well, he was
But
working on that project with Werner, but from the sounds
but,
of it,
but killing your own mom just seems not good for you individually even. I don't know.
I mean, she at this point she's still a baby. I don't think she's thinking that clearly, but one thing I'm wondering because it sounds like it happened throughout town. Like each of the babies except David has caused some sort of death or accident. Because notice how when there was one scene at the church where all the parents are picking up the kids, and you
Mhm.
see a lot of the parents that are originally a mother and a father are now down and down at least one parent.
Yeah.
I think the only one that actually still had two was Ben and his wife, the one that thought he was cheated on.
Do you think though, is it always the kids taking out their own parent though, or is it just like something that's what I don't know either. It's like,
It's also possible that they are only taking out people who hurt them, whether it was meant to be or not, meant to do it or not. Because notice how the mother accidentally hurt Mara, so now Mara took revenge on her. You see it throughout this whole movie. The janitor Buck Flower accidentally hit the kid with a broom. No idea why he decided to be stupid like that. But notice what happened to him right after. They don't seem to want to hurt anybody until they feel like they're threatened either. Also,
well, the mom after the boiling incident, the mom clearly knows something's wrong with the child. She kind of already is like leaning towards suicide just because she's like, I gave birth to an evil child. It seems like she's already thinking about it, but then before she does it, it's like the Mara gives the final like nod, go ahead to go ahead and do it.
well, it's
Um,
also possible that because now because Mara can read her mind, she probably realized Barbara's going to eventually tell because Doc doesn't really know that Mara was the one who caused it.
mhm.
So at least not at that point. So he's probably so Barbara's thinking how to tell Doc without telling Mara. Mara reads her mind and then forces her off the cliff so she can keep her identity, even though that's kind of pointless when we get to age 9.
Yeah, and so now we'll get to the actual. So from there we get our time jump, which we've discussed is kind of jarring. The kids now clearly walking as a clan together, with of course young David in the very back of the clan, as he's like a lot younger than the rest of them, it seems, but he's actually the same age. But okay, a couple questions here. They're all wearing the same clothes.
Yes.
Did they all individually influence their parents to buy them the same clothes? Are the parents aware that hey, something's up here? Why are our kids all wearing the same clothes? It's just
I'll
very
say
odd.
I'll say yes, just for the fact that we see these parents do a lot with these kids that no parent would ever do. Like
Yeah.
when they eventually tell them, "Oh, we're going to live in the barn," you're telling me these parents had no problems driving them to that barn and say, "Okay, have fun."
This is why it's so hard for me to believe that there's this time jump where the parents just raise the kids. The kids apparently have been acting weird the entire time. For this entire 8 years, at no point are they normal kids. Like, it's not like there's, like, a different personalities where they have a normal kid personality and then they switch to robot. It seems like their default is, like, robotic alien kid. So I'm sure the parents at some point would get together and be like, "Hey, these are not normal kids. What do we do about this?" But it seems like they're just, like, happily going along with the plan of raising the kids for 7, 8 years now. Just seeing the kids having the same gray hair, the same clothes, how they're acting, I'd be like, "Whoa, something's not right here," but they're still just like, "Oh, yes, I'm so proud of my young Mara." Like, I mean, it's like, they're still oblivious in a weird way. I'm like, "Dude,
Oh,
like,
so we
what?"
only really see Doc and Lily, or Jill, Doc and Jill throughout this, and
Yeah.
don't seem oblivious. They seem scared. Like the things they've seen is actually scaring them. Some we don't see some of the other parents. The only other parent we see is the girl who actually lost her daughter, and it is implied that that after 9 years she takes her own life, which I'm trying to figure out,
Mm.
was that influenced also by the kids, or did she just finally lose it after 9 years?
It felt like she finally lost it because she encounters David, and David just sees a premonition basically, but he's not, like, actively pushing her towards suicide. It looks like he's just seeing the future of what she's gonna do
Well,
because he
throughout
looks
the movie,
disturbed. He looks disturbed by it once he sees it, so
well,
yeah.
yeah, but we also see that David never. I don't think David ever uses his powers at all in this movie. Sure, he will get up and stand with him, but I need to rewatch the movie. I did not pay attention the past two times. I don't think David's eyes ever glow throughout any part in this movie.
Well, let's talk about David for a second. I did wanna talk about David's whole background because he is, the one who's gonna show emotion, and to me, he's actually, even though I like the actress who played Mara as well, I think David's the most impressive child performance because he does have to show conflict and emotion, a lot of things like that. But the main thing with David is that so the one who the alien child was gonna be his partner, which I guess means, like,
His
the one
mate.
who's supposed to. Right. So he feels a connection there, so that being gone, he feels sort of grief, but the good writing about it is that he's dealing with, or his mom also had lost somebody as well, so they're kind of jointly dealing with the grief there, and that probably is what separates him from the others, is that he has a different mom situation, and it seems like the emotion is suppressing his powers, but also that he just doesn't fit in with the other kids.
Well, the other thing is because the emotion is suppressing his powers, and he's most likely not killed anyone. Jill actually believes that her son is not the well. To be fair, he's not, but Jill is still able to form an attachment to David because she's never seen David do anything that would kind of break that trust between mother and child.
Mm, mhm. True. But the slippery slope of David is that it means that all of the kids probably could be reached then. So if she's been able to convert an alien into basically almost like a normal human being with emotion, it kind of means that through some avenue you probably could reach all of them in a way. Like, so it's kind of like we by the end they're all just evil. We have to kill them all, but it's like, well, are they really bad? It just sounds like an animal you could probably train to become more human. So that's the slippery slope of David. If he's the same alien as them, then it's like, why can't, as they learn more, they could be like, hey, we have to treat the kids this certain way, and they'll actually start to become more human then. So I don't know.
So that's one thing. But again, it could also be a lot of these parents are afraid of the kids, so they can't treat them that way. Which could
Mhm.
actually explain why, for mild inconveniences, these kids actually do kill off some of their parents or anyone close to them to show, hey, we don't care for you. Stop trying to get close to us.
Right, right.
It's like a form of
Um,
protection on their part.
yeah, that's a good point. Um, so as much as I love the beginning, this middle of the part of the movie does feel like it gets kind of dull and drags a little bit, I'd say.
We get a few kills, like like our janitor.
This Jenner's an idiot. He knows these kids are evil, and he's still just completely. I don't know.
Well, it's weird because now, admittedly, we have seen this actor in other movies. At least I have,
Mhm.
and I recognize him. And he always kind of plays the same like drunk guy who eventually does something stupid when he really should have just stayed away. Because the kids were just letting him ramble on until he accidentally hit a kid, and
Mhm.
that's when Mara stood up because that was her mate that he just hit. And Mara's like, "Nah, we're not doing that."
Just okay. So yeah, the middle part of the movie is a little bit more dull for me, but we get some kills. A janitor kill, it just makes the janitor look like an idiot. But also, by the way, he does actually hit the kid in the head with a stick. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
I'm
that's
not
where
saying
he
he had
looked
it.
like an idiot.
I'm not saying he had it coming, but he hit the kid in the head pretty hard too, by the way. So
Well, and then we get one death that admittedly feels like this was definitely not needed. And that was Ben's death
Mhm,
because he just wanted his daughter back. His wife was stricken with grief because the daughter left.
mhm.
And really, I'm still thinking, and why did you let them leave? Admittedly, they'd both be dead because their daughter is not one of emotion, but
Right, right,
no,
true.
Ben tries to get his daughter back, and they like, nah, you're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna drive you into a gasoline tank.
First of all, why was that gasoline tank there? This seems like a hazard anyways. But yeah, this death felt a little bit over the top for this movie. It's like this is where the budget went into this is one of the scenes the budget went into, this huge over the top explosion. And you could have killed them more low key, but it's like just a feels like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie type death. So
Either
you know.
low key or how about this? Wound him, just like you did the doctor that accidentally blinded one of the kids. This one does not need because he wasn't really physically threatening them. He just wanted his daughter back. You could have made it to where I feel like these kids would be able to erase their memories.
It feels like towards the end they got to a point again, the movie feeling rushed where they're like, wait a minute. We still have Mark Hamill's character, the priest. We have Kirstie Alley. There's something like we have to kill off all the most of the remaining adult characters, and we get like kind of they all get killed like in a 15-minute sequence. Like 15 minutes, they all get killed pretty much. It kind of feels rushed.
Yeah, but
Like nobody. So
I kind of agree with Mark Hamill's death in the lore of this movie because he was planning on actually harming the kids. He was there to take them out. So of course,
mhm.
them getting physical payback on him makes more sense. Ben's does not to me. Ben's was over the top and just uncalled for.
but he was trying to take her away from them. So
Like
you can make
again,
an
I feel
argument
like
that you can argument make an argument that they've established that they're going to do their own thing, live by themselves, and now he's coming to try to take one away. So they're like feeling like we have to get rid of him because he's like being forceful about it.
you could say that, but I feel like it's not out of the realm of possibilities that these kids could erase their memories or break their mind. So they could have like made him brain dead or made him like forget he even had a daughter and then make him turn around, maybe even do it darker by making him forget he even had a wife and that he actually lived in Japan and make him go back to Japan. Just completely leave the wife alone.
Well, it's hard to believe that at this point, like, 8 years in, that the kids at this point have 0 feelings towards their parents. Like, I mean, you could have maybe made it more interesting by having the daughter be like, "Hey, can we wound him and not kill him?" But
Right.
she's like, "Yep, have him fly into a gas tank and explode."
The other two towns with the kids are being bombed. Okay, cool. So what I'm trying to figure out is why did the government send the police force after these set of kids and not just bomb the town here?
Yeah, it feels like, the ending of this movie feels out of place. It feels like they suddenly wanted to have, like, a big action climax. So that's why we have, like, all this stuff with the cops, but it just, again, feels out of place. This feels like a low budget movie where they're shoehorning in some, like, high budget scenes for no reason. Like, one thing about first of all, let me go back to Kirstie Alley for a second, though, her whole death thing.
This makes
Showing
no
the
sense.
alien was silly, but yeah, you made a point already. Do you wanna talk about this death?
Yeah, so now Kirstie Alley, the reason she showed him the alien was because they got into her brain. Their
Mhm.
their whole power over you is if they can get into your mind. Now, Kirstie Alley, even Mara mentions, oh, well, I can't seem to get in access your true thoughts, meaning she can't fully control her. My thought is, why did she all of a sudden seeing these kids, not think, oh, maybe I should block my mind like I always do,
Right.
instead of
You're right.
now all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, these kids are going to kill me. It's like, lady, you've been able to defend yourself against them this whole movie, and now all of a sudden you're
Right.
going to give yourself an autopsy.
Right. Of all the people who should have like have practiced at this point to block them out, she should be on top of that list. But when it's time for her to die, she just basically says, "Well, go ahead, come in my thoughts. Let me take you down the basement. Let me show you the alien." It's like, huh? I don't understand either.
And
Um,
then we get Sarah's death, where the other kids decide to burn her alive, and all the other folks are like, I ain't messing with that.
well, again, this is why I'm thinking about when this movie take place because they're carrying the torches. Like to me, that makes me think of like an old 19 like this like the 1940s or 50s. Like you're carrying a torch. That's your plan. Like these people don't have
Mark Hamill
guns.
had the only gun.
I don't understand. Like, and then the torch is like, yeah, if you know these kids are dangerous, you've seen them do crazy things. Like, why are you gonna have a torch in your hand and end up getting set on fire?
The,
Setting yourself on fire, really. So
I mean, the real question I have is, you see these kids do crazy things. It's one story for Sarah because Mark Hamill just died. That was her husband.
right.
All the others in the towns, like, I ain't gonna mess with them. Have you not seen what they can do? It's
Yeah.
like, we don't stand a snowball's chance in hell.
There's a lot of characters doing dumb things. One thing to mention also too is like I know it's a small town, but would they all go to the same church and have the same religion and be that like sort of communal as they are in this town?
In
No.
this time frame we're looking at, yes.
Again, I can believe
Small
like the
town plus
19
time
the
frame.
1920s, but this is like the 90s?
Yeah, I still say yeah because a lot of small towns still do that actually, and even nowadays,
Yeah.
it's the bigger towns that are more diversified.
Okay. Well, we get the dumb town people, of course. But then yeah, this whole cop thing now, this police shootout at the end. Explain me this. How are they able to influence the helicopter?
Uh, I don't know. I guess the guy
Because
looked
I
down at
thought the
him
whole
as he.
I thought the whole thing was the eyesight, the communication with the eyes. Do they look up and see the helicopter pilot make eye contact? Because they're not just naturally telekinetic. They just can't move the helicopter in the direction they want. So I don't
I
I don't understand.
I guess the helicopter dude looked down just right at the right time.
He should have been able to take them out from the helicopter. There's no reason why their little eye contact thing should affect him driving that, but okay.
Yeah, what would have made more sense is if they had one of the cops with with a machine gun aim up at the helicopter and start shooting them.
Yeah.
That would have made more
They did
sense. And
they just went full blown, like, they can just control the helicopter with their eyes. I'm like, What? Like, are they just gods? I don't understand, but okay, anyways.
then we get our climax, which for the context of the movie, the lore of this movie, I actually like the climax to this one where he's constantly trying to block them out. We see the wall from Harry Potter sitting there. She's trying to figure out the code, which bricks to hit.
That was well done. I would even like them to spend more time on it, but it was a nice tense, like, slowly the walls breaking down. I had a feeling that Christopher Reeve's character was gonna sacrifice himself because it felt like even though it's an alien child, they weren't gonna have him just kill his own daughter without him dying too. Like, he wasn't just gonna, like, murder his child, it was just gonna be like them going out together is how I felt they were gonna go. It's a good ending. What I like most about the ending is that last scene with, them in the car driving away, because I thought they were gonna I thought they were gonna do that cheesy thing. I thought that they're gonna cut to, David's eyes and his eyes turn green. You were waiting for his eyes to, like, show that he's still
I
they
was
didn't do that, and I was like, "Oh, good. He is a normal kid now."
so
They didn't do
I
the
was
cheesy
actually
thing.
thinking maybe they were going to show a tear fall down because, admittedly, since they do mention in this movie they share the same genetics, him and the
Right.
other kid. So in a sense, that was his brothers and sisters. So I was thinking
That
he
would've
was
been
going to shed a tear because he just lost 8
that
brothers
made
and
sense.
sisters.
Yeah. See,
And
I just thought they were doing that gonna do the whole set up a sequel thing by his eyes turning green and showing that he's still I was like, it wouldn't make any sense for him to just have betrayed them and then for himself to still be evil would make no sense. So thankfully
well,
they didn't do that.
yeah, well, originally, I will say in the original Village of the Damned in 1960, they actually did make a sequel called Children of the Damned in 1964.
Ah, wow.
Now, granted, from what I understand, it is all different characters, all different kids. But I'm assuming since it's a sequel, it's supposed to be the same race, same whatever. So that's probably where the alien aspect actually came in. If the original still dealt with aliens,
Interesting. I like the ending, but this movie feels like maybe the story needs like a TV show. It just feels like it's a great concept, but the movie because it's kind of rushing through to tell the entire story, it doesn't really have room to breathe in the way it should. So it doesn't feel like it actually executes the concept to where I can call it a great movie.
for me, I would put this more. I agree with the TV series, or at least add. 'Cause it was about an hour and a half movie. Maybe add another 30 minutes so we can also get a little bit more context with the other kids. See what
Yeah.
they did. Because just seeing what Mara did does not would not exactly cause me much concern about the other kids. To me, the other kids are still normal. So I want to see what the other kids did throughout that because we hear that they caused suicides and accidents, but we never saw it.
Yeah, and you kind of are introduced to other families, so you could have spent a lot more time with other families to see what's going on with their children, specifically in their household. That would have meant a lot more to the movie also. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's the opening 15 minutes again is so good to be so interesting, but then to me it's kind of a dull middle, and then the ending is pretty good. But it feels like just wasted potential a little bit. Like there's a great movie inside of here, but we get probably more like an average movie out of this, honestly.
That sounds fair to me.
And as a Carpenter fan, I could say yes, this is definitely probably not going to make the top 10 Carpenter films overall. So
Nope, Vampire
um,
still makes number one for you, doesn't it?
that's in the bottom five as well. So this is probably better than Vampires. Maybe I don't know,
No, I agree with you. There's only one good scene in Vampires.
but this does feel like if you were doing a Children of the Corn marathon, you should throw Village of the Damned in. It feels like very similar to all the Children of the Corn movies in terms of the story. Just a little
It's
bit
only
better
because
made,
kids
but
are in it.
yeah. Kids, but also just taking over the town kind of thing. It just feels it has
But
that
no
same
corn.
spirit. So you don't need corn, man. They got well, what do they eat? Well, I guess they eat normal food in there. So you got
Yeah,
boiling hot water. So
Children of the Boiling Water.
I do want to give a shout out. Like I said, the actor who plays David, I thought did a great job. I'm generally not a fan of child actors in horror films because usually I'm let down, but he was good. Christopher
Especially
Reeves,
finding out he played in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake as the dude who I'm guessing I can't remember if they named him Jesse in that one too. Because he's supposed to be the guy who dies in the prison.
yeah,
In the original, it was Jesse. I can't remember what he. If, no, Rod was his name in the original. I can't remember what his name was in the remake.
well, nobody remembers anything about the remake because it was trash. So that makes perfect sense. Even
Fair.
the actors said it was trash. Even so,
Well,
but he does
apparently
a
the
great
actor
job.
has good memories about being on Village of the Damned, and I'm thinking, dude, you were 5 years old.
Oh yeah, but that's such a unique thing. You'll probably remember that. So, Saw Born as him, Christopher Reeves, excellent as the leading man. Um, Kirstie Alley was so-so. She didn't do much with it, in my opinion.
You know who
Um,
I feel like should have gotten also more screen time? Mainly because
mm,
if you survive as a character, if you're in a character that does play a pivotal role in some point in the movie, I feel like you should get more screen time, like Jill in this movie.
mhm.
You see her maybe 5 times throughout the whole movie, and then all of a sudden, her whole thing with David is one of the more important parts. I'm like, no, I don't buy it because we don't really know her.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden, our main guy is just smooching on her around the end. I'm like, Where did that lead to? How did that lead up to that?
That was very out of place. I didn't sense any romance there until that scene. It was very weird. Um, yeah, I don't know. So the guy that played the janitor, he's in all the Carpenter movies I've seen. It seems like always playing a homeless person, by the way.
Yeah,
Not like Carpenter films, but he's also a homeless dude in Back of the Future, Wishmaster.
wasn't he also in Friday 3, the one who finds the eyeball, or was that someone else?
No, that's definitely someone else.
Okay.
Um, the guy that flies into the gas thing, he also is in a lot of Carpenter films. He's actually in the Mouth of Madness. He's in Body Bags. He's in They Live, so he's in a lot of them. So there's definitely a lot of familiar faces in terms of Carpenter actors. The score is pretty solid. The music was pretty good, I'd say. Like I said, the movie had a lot of potential, but yeah, it just didn't land as well as I would have expected. That's all. But
Yeah,
I still recommend at least one watch. But
I
I don't know
recommend
what's
just
gonna happen.
I recommend everyone be like me and just buy the Blu-ray without seeing the movie at all. So that way you
I
can
bought
say,
it.
"Yeah, I own it."
I bought it too, but I don't know. I don't know how much rewatchability I'm gonna have with it. We'll see. I mean, I don't. I'm not so far. I'm not feeling like I need to watch it again, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Not the most fun. It's not the most fun movie. Let's be honest. So
well, anything with kids as the main villain, unless it's a comedy, usually is not a fun movie. I
I
mean, look at you. You still haven't even finished watching Bloody Birthday.
don't remember starting that, let alone finishing it. So, jeez. Well,
As always, folks, you don't have to go home, but you do got to tell Vic what the next movie we're going to review is.
well, next week on my itinerary is In the Mouth of Madness. We're gonna continue with some more Carpenter, and then at some point also we're doing 30 Days of Night will be your choice, I believe, sir, as you mentioned.
Yes.
So hey, but give us the suggestions. We'll definitely take them into account for the future. So
And if someone says Sharknado, I'm going to ask you to jump in one.
be a
Just saying.
fun excursion. Maybe not fun.
As long as the sharks don't get you, it'll probably be fun.
True. All right, folks. Till next time.
Peace.